Why is privacy an issue? Great question. I'm glad you asked that. Well, because one, we have increased access to information. And not just that, there's a lot more information that's being captured, data collected. And more people want access to that information. Why? Because it's money. When you look at companies like, Google, Amazon, AWS, just all of these different companies, they make money by brokering your data. I need your data. I need to know your shopping patterns, your buying habits, where you live, what you do, all of these things, because now we can target ads, we can target things to you. And with that said, so now that there is a need for data, guess what we have now? We have other individuals who are willing to sell them that data. For them to sell the data, your personal information, they have to be able to glean that or harvest that information from multiple places. So that's where things like electronic tracking and monitoring our activities to glean as much personal data as possible so that we can keep feeding the machine, right? So now privacy, so we think about privacy because now our data is everywhere. Our information, a lot of our personal information is stored in multiple databases across the expanse of the internet and the webs. Now, we want to keep these things private. Why? Because privacy deals with observation and intrusion, and really core to our Constitution, that we look at. We have different laws, different amendments that really talk about our rights as citizens, in this great country, and what things can be, intruded into because of law, because of maybe a crime or things like that, and what things should not be shared. So that's why privacy now is so important, because our personal information is gold. It's valuable. It's crude oil. It's that level now. Now, how do we protect our privacy within the information systems that is stored in? Many ways of doing that. Like say, whether we just talked about with the CIA model, whether it's encryption, it's monitoring and tracking, and by laws and policies. Really, the biggest thing is policies and how we handle privacy information within our organization. Things that we have to do from an administrative perspective to keep our data, keep our information private. Now, some of the sources of privacy law, really the Constitution. It starts with the Constitution. If you look at the First, the Third, the Fourth, the Fifth Amendments, and by the way, in your ebook, there is the full Constitution in the back. Yes, with amendments and everything. So I'm not going to get deeply into these because you can read those yourself right there in the book that we have. But yeah, if you actually go through these various amendments that we've had to the different articles of our Constitution that lays out the basis, the foundational fundamentals of privacy. Also, within our federal government, we've established things like the Freedom of Information Act, the Privacy Act, E-Government Act, the ECPA, the Electronic Communications Privacy Act. So these are different acts, different laws that have been enabled by our federal government to help protect individual privacy. State laws, like I say, not only at the federal government level, but also at the state level, we have some laws that apply to individuals that reside or that live in different states. Now, this is an interesting one, what we call common law. Now, what is common law? Common law is a body of law developed through legal tradition in court cases. These are laws that weren't really in the Constitution or covered here, but in the United States, we are a country where our law, our legal system is built on precedents, right? If you set a precedent like Roe v. Wade or, this, law, this court case made a settlement. So now we've established a precedent. So common law is based on that type of precedence. And many times you hear it called tort law. And what is tort? Like I said, that's a tort law is a wrongful act that harms a person. That's what a tort law is, and today there's about 4 different torts that impacts our privacy. One is, intrusion into seclusion, meaning that we should have, the right for privacy, that there are certain things that shouldn't be allowed. Portrayal in a false light. Now, many times you see, especially, Hollywood and musicians and, sports personnel, you'll see some of these things being portrayed in a false light, meaning that someone is using your image to portray you in a certain way, another type of tort. Appropriation of likeness or identity, almost like copyright, but someone is using, again, your image in a way that misappropriated, that's not pick a sports person who their image is being used in association with advertising, some type of product that they never agreed to. Because today with technology, especially now with AI, artificial intelligence, we can put together very lifelike videos where I could appear to be endorsing something that I never endorsed. So, as well as public disclosure of private facts. Those are another tort. Now, all of these things can be harmful to an individual. Now, I will say in certain career fields or certain places like Hollywood, news people that work in the news, there are certain things where there's no expectation of privacy. Okay, so if you're a public figure, there are certain things you can't use as a tort because you have put yourself out there. So you're not really a private citizen anymore. Now you are a public figure. So there are certain torts that do not apply. But yeah, but some of these things also have been used to set precedents for privacy laws, as well as voluntary agreements. Okay, so it doesn't really necessarily have to be a law, but if I've gone into an agreement, even let's say buying a house, and if you've ever bought a house, that's why you have to sign a stack of papers this big, right? And a lot of those have to do with disclosure. Because a lot of information is disclosed to a lot of people during the house buying process. So even when we get into different types of voluntary agreements, there are issues of privacy that can be associated with that. So how do we treat threats? Different types of threats that we have to privacy in what we call this information age we live in. Well, of course, there's a lot of things such as spyware. There's a lot of technical tool things that we have to deal with that we never even thought about, that our grandparents and people before us never even thought about, never even heard of, like spyware. Yeah, so now when you're out there on the internet, when you're doing your thing, there's adware, Trojans, keyloggers, rootkits, red shells, all of these type things are out there that's trying to glean your information. Adware, it's now that's pop-ups. We see them all the time, different and they want you to click on something because when you click on that, there again, now whoever's putting up that adware is able to track and monitor your activity. Keyloggers, got to be careful of those now where software is able to monitor your keystrokes. Rootkits, these are things that are buried a little bit deeper into operating systems, and they can be actually very dangerous. Red shells, like I said, you may hear, if you're a gamer, you may hear this thing called red shells because what they like to be able to do is monitor how much time you're playing video games. So that's what also they know how to build in enhancements and things of that nature. So there's a lot of things going on in this environment, as well as cookies, web beacons, click streams. When we think about cookies, different types of cookies, you got first-party cookies. Now, with a first-party cookie, it's an exchange between a user's browser and the website that you're using. So, if I'm sitting on my computer at home using Microsoft Edge, and I'm go out to a Google website, and so they could have a cookie, and you see these little things pop up. Cookies. Do you accept the transfer of cookies on your machine? When you click OK, you are consenting to let this cookie, which is a list. All a cookie is, this is a piece of code that is written to your machine. So now their website is able to transfer information, data back and forth. Third-party cookies, that's between two websites. Okay, it's set by one website, but it's readable by another website. Web beacons, like I say, this is the files that's placed on web pages, and usually you don't see them. They're hidden, they're obscure, they're hidden. Or you may see them in an email, or they may be in an email message, you won't see it, that count users who visit a web page. This is how they're able to track who went in and out of your website. Click streams, and really what a click stream is, that's a digital footprint, and really it's just tracking, how many clicks. You see this a lot on social media sites, YouTube, Facebook, I don't know, you pick it, TikTok, whoever it may be, because now they're being able to see how many people clicked on your on your video, and also able to track, did you link that video to somewhere else? Did you take a YouTube video, put it into your web, to your Facebook? So, and now who's clicking on that video via Facebook? So it's it's a way of looking at the digital footprint of who is getting into, or who is seeing information. It's, like I say, it's kind of like you're looking at the steps, your footprint across the information, the internet. Wireless technology, there's a lot of things out there to be aware of. RFID. That's we use that for identification, radio frequency identification, Bluetooth, NFC, near field communications. A lot of these things are used with tracking, monitoring, but at the same time they're providing data information many times back into a database that can be tracking your personal information. And social engineering. Now, when we talk about social engineering, it gets its own slide, because really this is huge. This is paramount in what we do today of understanding social engineering. This is one of our biggest cyber threats that we deal with, of how people are able to get into your networks. Like I always say, years ago, brute force. I mean, that you had guys hacking away, script kiddies trying to brute force their way into your network. Now, instead of me not trying to kick your door down, I want to see if I can social engineer you to the point you can open the door and let me in. Because once you do that, now you have bypassed any security controls that we've put in place on the network. So when we think about social engineering, like I said, what is that? It's the art of manipulation or influence, and how I can manipulate or influence or deceive in order to be able to gain control. Like I say, the bulk of the exploits that you hear about today, no matter what type of exploit it is, it could be, the different types of, whether malware that's out there, ransomware, whatever but most of these start with this, that somebody on an email, on a text, on a, either direct mail, whatever it may be, have been socially engineered to provide a response. Now, let's look at the stages of social engineering, okay? It starts out with victim selection. How do you select a victim? Okay, because what you're looking for, someone who looks gullible, okay? Yeah, I hate to say it that way, yes, but true. Someone that I think they're in debt. They probably would love to get this. And many times it just follows our own greed. That's how we set ourselves up as victims. Do you really think there's people out there on the internet who just want to give you an iPad? No. But our greed, our lust, those are the things that sometimes draws us away, and we're enticed by those things. So victim selection, many times we can make ourselves a much smaller footprint by understanding how the targeting that's done. Now, once a victim is selected, now we're going to do research on that victim. Okay, I want to know as much as I can about that individual. And it's interesting, especially in the environment we're in. I tell my wife, a lot of times we're driving on the highway, and I say I should not be able to glean as much information from someone just by driving behind their minivan. Okay, here's what I mean. All right, I'm looking at the back of your minivan, and we got the little sticker on there that's got, the stick people, mom, dad, 2 kids, you got a dog and a cat. Wow, okay, that's good. However, you told me your family size, your family demographics, you've got an animal. If I'm going to break into your house, got to be aware of that because there's a dog there. Then you got the sticker over here that says Disney or Outer Banks. Okay, that tells me you're probably a vacationer. So at least sometime in the summer, you and the family are gone on vacation. Again, target-rich opportunity. And now at the bottom, you got the name of your church, or the little fish, with the cross in it, and welcome to, First Baptist. Now, what you've told me is a bad guy. Typically on Sundays from 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock to noon, you're not there because you're probably in church. So you've given me so much information. Now I look at your license plate, and you tell me what fraternity you were in, what college you went to. So now when it comes to social engineering, now I can start making affiliations based on what you would perceive. Okay, yeah, I'm in the same fraternity. So now I'm starting to make connections because, oh, you're an Alpha Kappa Alpha. All I got to do is a little research. What is Alpha Kappa? Oh, so now I know that. And you are a Denver Broncos fan. Wow, all that from driving behind you on the highway. So now you've made the victim selection and victim research so much easier. So much easier. So once I've done that, now I want to develop a relationship. Okay, let's say I do it. We're all driving to the parking lot at work, and I see the back of your van. Well, guess what? When we go into the building, I'm going to start talking to you about just that. Oh, wow, you're Denver. Oh, I love Denver. Yes, one of my favorite teams. Did you go to school there? Yeah, I went to Colorado State, and I was Alpha Kappa Alpha. Oh, you were Alpha Kappa? And we get the little fraternity sign. Yes. And now I have developed a relationship because I know that you are the CEO's personal assistant. Now I have developed a relationship. and I come by your cubicle and I see your family pictures. And now I continue to just work on that relationship. And many times these are what we call advanced persistent threats, meaning this may take 6, 8 months. They're not in a hurry. Where we've built a relationship, and then here comes the gotcha. Now I'm going to exploit that relationship by, gleaning your passwords, your username, or just being able to get information from you that you would normally not give to a stranger. Why? Because I'm no longer a stranger. That's many times how social engineering we're set up to do things like that. And now some different types. I'm sure most of you have gone through this before, so I'm just going to briefly just go over these. Fishing, whether it's spear fishing, where we're going for the big fish, right? Quid pro quo, you do this for me, I do something for you. You can go with this, or you can go with that. Baiting, where and this happened when I was at the Pentagon actually, where there were thumb drives. People left thumb drives. People left disk out, and for the sole purpose of curiosity. They know that someone's going to pick up one of these disks or a thumb drive, and they're going to plug it in because they're curious. I wonder what is on here. That's where you're baiting. Tailgating, like I say, walking through the door, because typically as Americans, as humans, we are nice. So if I show up behind someone with a brown suit on, with my name tag and a brown cap, with a dolly with a lot of boxes on it, many times someone is going to hold the door open. Oh, why? Because that's UPS and he's delivering stuff. Never ask, are you really UPS? You look like UPS, but are you really? So you see how social engineering is able to build relationships, build trust, and extract things. Now, this is always an interesting one, workplace privacy. When we think about workplace privacy, right? Whether it's, we talk about telephone, email, voice monitoring. This is something that now has become such an issue. I will tell you, I'm not the youngest spoon in the drawer, so I've been around for a while. So, kind of pre-internet days, people in my generation, we were, very untrustworthy of anybody, So we expected telephone monitoring. Didn't have email, but you didn't. The expectation of privacy didn't exist. Today's environment where now you've got email, you got bring your own device, you got all these things. So the aperture is open wider to the level of trust is different. The trust model. So now at work, many times there's an expectation that I should be able to sit on my employer's network and surf the internet and go to my personal account and bring my personal stuff onto their network. And that's not always the case, because like I say, there are things that an employer is able to do with respect to their personal network. With their corporate, their company network, as far as monitoring. Now, there are parameters, there's laws associated with how much they can do, okay? And they have to, give you notification that you are being monitored. Now, if you work in the federal government environment, yes, you'll see that on the screen. When you go onto a government network, a banner pops up. You are on a federal government network. Do not expect privacy. All your actions are being monitored, and when you click the OK button, you are consenting to search, seizure, all of these different things. The same with video surveillance. Yes, employers can have cameras up, but they have to give notification. However, when it comes to video surveillance, it has to be in places where an employee would have a reasonable expectation of privacy. For instance, in a bathroom, there's a reasonable expectation of privacy in a bathroom, in a private office. Again, reasonable expectation of privacy. But many times these policies, going back to what we talked about, policies, documentation, processes, procedures, many times these local policies are not well written to where people understand the rights they have with respect to privacy. Computer use, computer monitoring, very similar. How we talk about telephone, email, voicemail. Again, internet access on your company's computer, that can be monitored, all right? So the expectation that I can just sit on my my employer's network and just scan and surf wherever I want to. No, they can monitor that. As well, and this is becoming another area of concern. Off-duty internet monitoring. What does that mean? Well, you're a school teacher, right? Elementary school teacher, but on your personal website or on your personal social media, you've got things out there that could look explicit or whatever it may be. Now and that's available to anyone. So we have now, there's been different lawsuits and things going on where, excuse me, employers have seen things on individuals' personal sites that have jeopardize their jobs and their careers. So just things to be considerate of with respect to privacy in the environment that we're in. Now, here's some general principles for protecting, for privacy protection. One, it's what we call, and this is very important when you work in an industry and you are responsible for data information. 5 areas that you always want to think of: data collection, data use, data storage, data retention, and data destruction or information destruction. When we talk about collection, two areas: active collection, passive collection. Active collection, that's a collection where the individual know that your data is being collected. Yes, I know it. Passive collection, that's collection many times where you don't know, because data may be pulled from one database into another system, and you didn't really realize that as an individual that your data was being collected. How is your data? How is it used? Well, your personal information, it should be used for the specific purpose it was collected for. Meaning that if I collected your social security number so I could get your security clearance, I should not take your social security number now, move it somewhere else, and use it for something else without your consent. Data storage, very important. Systems, our information system should allow users to create secure accounts that hold their data, meaning that I should know where my data is stored within some type of account. Now, not only that, but now when I talk about data retention, I need to have an assurity that this organization is only retaining the data that it needs, and for a specific time period that the data is needed for. So now when we go into data destruction, now we know that data should be destroyed based on the retention period. When that retention has expired, that data, the information will be moved on. Now, within the European Union, and you'll hear a lot more about this, I'm sure, GDPR, your General Data Protection Regulation. And what is it? It's a set of limits on collecting and using personal data. Like I say, and it does. And it's a pretty large set of rule sets, but it's good. And we're going to get deeper into that throughout the course. It grants specific rights to the EU, to the European Union, for data subjects, for individuals, for privacy. And it also does something that's very interesting. It says you have the right to be forgotten, meaning that you have the right as an individual to have your data extracted and permanently deleted, your personal information. Very interesting. Now, within the United States, currently, we do not have that type of comprehensive data protection law or privacy protection law in place like they've got within the European Union. More to come on this in the future. All right, so that's kind of an overview. Now, what you're going to see at the end of this course within Module 1 is a worksheet. And like I said, there's 3 worksheets throughout this course. I think there's one in Module 1, Module 4, Module 5. I don't remember. It was on an earlier slide, right? So what this worksheet is, and this is just an example, you've got a law, and now you're going to briefly describe the law, what rights are covered by the law, and who in the organization is responsible for ensuring compliance. So this first one is filled out for you, like FERPA, your Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. So this gives you an example of what this looks like. So all you need to do for this worksheet, complete the table, fill in the columns, and there's within the actual worksheet you see there's bracket information says, it will say insert text here. Fill those out. That's what that worksheet looks like. All right, so let's wrap this up, okay? In summary, privacy, that is, like I said, it's a right that people no longer are taking for granted. Why? Because our information is everywhere. And, not only private information, but the aggregation of public information. And here's what I mean. A lot of things that are listed in public records, like your tax information, your home information. And so all those things are public records. By themselves, not a problem. But now, because we have the technology, we have so many ways of pulling data from multiple sources. When I start aggregating a lot of public information, now it really gives people a private, a larger footprint of your privacy. So even aggregating a lot of personal, public information can have a data privacy impact. And we all want to be able to control that, because of the growth of electronics and everything else. And really now we're going to, in this class, talk about how within an organization we can use our information systems and information system policies, processes, techniques, procedures to be able to control and monitor personal information. Wow. Week 1. Yes, looking forward to it. Again, if you have any questions, please reach out. Like I say, I'm available for email anytime. Late assignments, or if you have questions about assignments, please do not wait I always ask people, jump on those things early in the week so that we can take care of those things early. Again, looking for a great class this term, week 1. We're going to, I want everyone to hit the ground running, be an active participant in our discussions, be respectful of your classmates, no matter what you do, always be respectful of, and what I always love to see is with discussions, you don't have to agree. You have to be respectful, but you don't always have to agree. I know it's so easy to get caught in these discussions. Hey, Jim, great post. Love what you said about, this, and this. And that's what a lot of our responses come. No, let's challenge each other in this course. And again, respectfully, but yes, let's challenge. Let's push people past where, they may go. Ask questions. Ask those probing questions that can drive good discussions. And a great thing about discussions is, no, we don't want groupthink. I want to see different opinions from different, where you're coming from. We have a slew of demographics, different ideas, different thoughts. Let's bring those together to have a great discussion about privacy laws, and your personal information. See you throughout week 1 and into week 2.